Right now, as you watch this video, there's a 30% chance that a microscopic organism is living inside your brain, subtly influencing your decisions, your personality, and even your romantic preferences. 2.5 billion people on the planet carry this organism. It's not a virus. It's not bacteria. It's something far more fascinating. A parasite that has discovered how to hack mammalian nervous systems, including yours. If this sounds like science fiction, brace yourself. Because the reality of modern parasitology is stranger than any horror movie. And the creature responsible? A protozoan with an almost unpronounceable name, Toxoplasma gondii. But here's the real mystery. This parasite might not be the villain you imagine. To understand how we got here, we need to go back tens of millions of years, when life was much simpler, but the rules of survival were the same. Eat or be eaten. Toxoplasma gondii evolved alongside felines, cats, lions, jaguars. For this parasite, a feline isn't just a host. It's the perfect home, the only place where it can complete sexual reproduction and create the next generations. But there's an evolutionary problem here. How does a microscopic parasite ensure it reaches a feline? The answer is one of nature's most ingenious strategies, hacking other animals to behave exactly as the parasite needs. When Toxoplasma infects a rat, something extraordinary happens. The rat loses its natural fear of cats. In fact, it becomes inexplicably attracted to feline urine scent. It's as if the parasite had rewritten the rodent's basic survival software. The result? An infected rat is 7 times more likely to be caught by a cat. Mission accomplished for Toxoplasma. Now you might be thinking, interesting, but I'm not a rat. This is where the story gets really fascinating, because humans shouldn't be relevant hosts for Toxoplasma gondii. We evolved in African forests, away from most large felines. This parasite didn't have millions of years to specialize in manipulating us. And yet, study after study reveals impressive correlations between Toxoplasma infection and human behavioral changes. Infected people show slower reaction times, increasing traffic accident risk by 2.7 times. They tend to be more impulsive, more prone to entrepreneurship, but also more susceptible to anxiety disorders. Infected women frequently report feeling more attractive and sociable. Infected men tend to be more dominant, but also more suspicious. It's as if the parasite had different strategies for different sexes. But the most surprising discovery came from neuroscience laboratories. When researchers analyzed infected brains, they found something that changed our understanding of parasitology. Toxoplasma doesn't just passively live in the brain, it actively modifies it. The parasite produces excess dopamine neurotransmitter, the same chemical responsible for pleasure and reward sensations. It also affects testosterone levels and can influence the production of other fundamental hormones. But here's the twist researchers didn't expect. Maybe we're looking at this relationship completely wrong. Recent studies suggest that Toxoplasma infection might not be a hostile invasion, but an ancient form of symbiosis we forgot exists. Consider this. World regions with higher Toxoplasma infection rates frequently show greater cultural diversity, more entrepreneurship, and surprisingly, lower incidence of some specific neurological disorders. In France, where 45% of the population carries the parasite, researchers noticed an intriguing correlation with the country's culinary tradition. The French have one of the highest Toxoplasma infection rates in the developed world, and also one of the most sophisticated gastronomic cultures. Coincidence? Maybe. But controlled studies show that infected people have more adventurous palates and greater willingness to try new flavors. And then we discovered something even more surprising. Toxoplasma might be protecting us. Infected people show more robust immune response to certain bacterial infections. The parasite seems to train our immune system, preparing it for future threats. Some researchers now theorize that Toxoplasma may have been a silent evolutionary partner for much longer than we imagined. If this is true, the implications are profound. It means millions of years of human evolution may have occurred with this parasite as a co-passenger, subtly influencing who we became as a species. Think about the great human migrations. Our ancestors left the safety of African forests to explore unknown territories. They navigated dangerous oceans, climbed impossible mountains, built civilizations in hostile deserts. That courage, that willingness to take risks, characteristics that define our species, may have been amplified by the presence of Toxoplasma gondii. But the story gets even stranger. Population studies suggest that Toxoplasma infection may influence even our political preferences. Infected people tend to be more open to social change, more tolerant of diversity, but also more prone to behaviors that prioritize the group over the individual. It's as if the parasite had its own opinions about how society should function. And then we have the creativity question. Artists, writers, and musicians show significantly higher Toxoplasma infection rates than the population average. Salvador Dali, known for his eccentric behavior and love of cats, had an almost pathological obsession with felines. Coincidence? Fewer and fewer researchers believe so. But here's the most disturbing aspect. If Toxoplasma really influences human behavior on a large scale, then part of what we consider human culture might actually be parasite culture expressed through human hosts. Our preferences, our tastes, our fears. How many of them are truly ours? Before you panic about your personal autonomy, there are some important things to understand. First, influence is not control. Even if Toxoplasma subtly affects certain behavioral tendencies, you still maintain your capacity for conscious decision-making. It's more like having an invisible advisor whispering very subtle suggestions. You can still ignore them. Second, not every Toxoplasma infection causes detectable behavioral changes. Most infected people live completely normal lives without ever suspecting they carry the parasite. Third, modern medicine is developing increasingly effective treatments. Specific antibiotics can eliminate Toxoplasma from the organism, although some researchers now question whether this is always desirable, considering the possible immunological benefits. But perhaps the most comforting discovery is this: knowledge is power. Simply being aware of the possibility of parasitic influence already significantly reduces its impact. It's the consciousness paradox. When you know you might be being influenced, you automatically become more resistant to that influence. Science is developing more precise tests to detect active Toxoplasma infection. Soon it will be possible to know for certain if you're part of that 30% of humanity. And here's a fascinating perspective. If Toxoplasma really co-evolved with us, then studying it may reveal fundamental aspects about human nature we never noticed. This brings us to a profound question about identity and autonomy. Where do you end, and where does the rest of the biological world begin? Your body houses trillions of bacteria that affect your mood, your digestion, even your food cravings. Ancient viruses are literally integrated into your DNA. And now we know that microscopic parasites can influence subtle aspects of who you are. Maybe the question isn't, how can I be truly free from external influences? Maybe the question is, how can I live in conscious harmony with the biological ecosystem that I am? Because in the end, the story of Toxoplasma gondii isn't a horror story about loss of control. It's a story of wonder about the interconnected complexity of life. We are less isolated individuals and more walking ecosystems. And there's a strange beauty in that, in the idea that our humanity might be, in part, the result of millions of years of invisible cooperation between species. So, the next time you make an apparently spontaneous choice, remember, there might be many more participants in that decision than you imagine. And maybe that's not something to fear, but something to celebrate. A reminder that we're part of something much larger and more mysterious than we'll ever fully understand. After all, in a universe where microscopic parasites can influence the course of human civilization, who can say where biology ends and magic begins?